Hi, welcome to Building an Effective Digital Fabrication Lab. Thanks for taking the time to watch this presentation. I'm Emily Hurst. I'm an innovation coach over digital fabrication in Hamilton County Schools in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
And I'm Andrew Hardy, also an innovation coach from Hamilton County in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I want to thank the TSIN for having us here today. And I want to thank my Outlook account for beeping at this exact moment. But we're here to talk about building an effective digital fabrication lab. And we hope that in coming to today's presentation, you're going to know and understand that the 9 areas of focus that we in Hamilton County have created to help run an effective and impactful school digital fabrication lab. We also hope that you will know what a digital fabrication lab is. I understand that some of you today might just have taken a chance and are curious about this, and so we hope to pique your interest and tell you a little bit about what we're doing in Hamilton County. A digital fabrication lab is a space where students are practicing essential skills like critical thinking and creativity. And they're really fostering those skills through work that they're doing with advanced technology. We have labs with 3D printers, laser cutters, vinyl cutters, button makers, all sorts of great tools, t-shirt presses or heat presses. And really one of the big goals there is for students to go from creating analog prototypes and paper prototypes to going to a final product using industry grade tools. And we are so excited to have these in Hamilton County because we now actually have the world's largest collection of these digital fabrication labs. And ranging all the way from K-12 buildings. And it's been a long road getting here, but by this upcoming summer, we will have labs in 43 schools total. So that's more than half of our Hamilton County Schools ecosystem. And the opportunity that's being afforded to our students is, we're really excited about it.
So like Andrew said, it has been a really long story of how we got here. This did not happen overnight at all. So just to give you a little bit of background, in 2014, STEM School Chattanooga opened Tennessee's first Fab Lab. The STEM School Chattanooga was already open at this point, and they had students creating really great presentations, but they were never able to actually test out the solutions that they had imagined. So the principal and assistant principal of the STEM School Chattanooga started some research, and they realized that a Fab Lab might be the way to take students to the next level. So 3 years later, in April of 2017, Volkswagen did a tour of STEM School Chattanooga, and they said, this is what we need in every school. They donated $1 million to Hamilton County Schools at that point and said, we want you guys to build out 16 what they then decided to call Volkswagen E-Labs over the next 2 years in Hamilton County Schools. So that was a partnership between Volkswagen, PEF, which is the Public Education Foundation, and Hamilton County Schools that started in August of 2017. So in August of that year, we had our first 8 new E-Labs opened, and they were modeled after the lab at the STEM School Chattanooga. In August of 2018, the second set of new E-Labs opened, and that finished out those first 16 labs that Volkswagen funded with their first $1 million. In November of 2019, we actually got the opportunity to open a K-14 lab, which was a partnership between Hamilton County Schools and Chattanooga State Community College. It is a massive digital fabrication lab, and it is called the Global Center for Digital Innovation. The following year, in August of 2020, Hamilton County Schools, without any funding donated by an outside partner, decided they really believed in this work, and they opened up 5 new labs using district funds. This was also the first time we opened elementary school labs. So those 5 labs included 2 elementary labs, which was the first time that had ever happened in Hamilton County Schools. So at this point, we had the largest collection of digital fabrication labs anywhere in the world. And so The Fab Foundation president and CEO, Sherry Lassiter, came down to Chattanooga to kind of see what we were doing and recognize us for all the work that we were doing. And I thought this quote just really summed up what was happening. She said, "Chattanooga is doing it differently. We're really piloting a new form of education." So the digital fabrication labs in Chattanooga really allowed us to change how education worked. Then to continue our story, in February of 2021, we got an anonymous donation of another $1 million to open 15 more labs. So August of that year, we got to open 7 new labs that were all in elementary schools. So at that point, we had 9 elementary labs. August of 2022, so this last school year, we opened 5 more labs with that money, which brought us to 10 elementary schools. And then kind of where we are now, the 2022-2023 school year, we launched eLab certification, which is what this presentation is mostly about. So right now, we're in the first round of eLab certification submissions and review, and we are working towards training the next 9 labs that are going to be opened in August.
So we are at the point now where we have them. So what? Now what? And as we said, we like to brag on it a little bit, but we do have the world's largest collection of these digital fabrication labs.
I don't know if we've said that yet.
I don't know if we've said it yet, but we want to make sure we're actually doing something with them. It's not okay for those to be just rooms full of cool stuff. Whether or not you've ever been in a makerspace or Fab Lab before, we want to make sure that we're actually moving the needle for our students with these spaces. And so, making sure that there is common language among the students and staff that are in the lab or in the school building. We want to make sure that professional development is consistent across school buildings and across our district. And we want to make sure that, if students are spending time working on these tools and in this space, that work continues to be rigorous, just like every other subject. And so we are in the process of figuring out what certification of these labs looks like. And that is, we're going to talk specifically about 9 areas of growth that we're looking for in our labs, and how we are using this certification process to support our teachers and our administrators who are making the impact with the students. So of course, like all things, how do you begin a process like this? We're going to have more than 40 labs. So how do you make sure that this is launched and this is you're taking you're taking information from everybody? And so our office's mission is on the right here, to design with stakeholders to bring innovative learning opportunities to all. And we really mean all here. We want that to be representative of our whole district. And so to launch this project, we made sure there was a steering committee, as we were going to be making some decisions on, what is certification, what does rigor look like in these different labs. That steering committee included people from our own office, people from local nonprofits like the Public Education Foundation, school principals and assistant principals, learning community superintendents and coaches. We want to make sure that was a representative group as we began this work. And at the end of this school year, where we're at right now, we have actually had 26 of our schools who have attended sessions on eLab certification and have submitted an application to receive a certification. And we're going to talk all about this process, but essentially our schools have submitted an application based on 3 different levels of support in their labs. And the goal there is for our schools to set a reasonable but ambitious goal. We want to make sure that through certification that we're not just staying steady in our buildings, but we're continuing to make the lab and the school a better place. As these schools have submitted their final submission, they have had walkthroughs with people who have served on our steering committee to make sure that the work and the feedback is very, very consistent across all of our different schools. Thank you. And finally, to what these three levels of our eLab certification are. We've got three levels, and what we have emerging here on the left, established, and then leading on the right. And I know we mentioned when we came in that we had an outcome of learning about 9 different focus areas. So we're going to tell you about each of these 9 areas and kind of break that down by our 3 levels of eLab certification today.
So our first level of certification, where most of our schools have decided to start, is emerging certification. So an emerging eLab is a lab with a defined implementation model that is used consistently throughout the year. We have had several labs over time that have either not been able to maintain a person to run the lab or haven't had the funding to keep the machines up to date and working, or consumables so the lab could be run. So getting an emerging eLab certification really just says we are using our lab consistently and we know how we're using it. So that includes 2 areas of focus, which is selecting and implementing a successful model, and setting some goals and metrics to really measure what successful use and growth of the eLab is. So we have 3 models that have been used consistently in Hamilton County. We have a scheduled model, which is usually through like a related arts. We have unscheduled, which is more like a traditional library. So a classroom teacher can say, hey, I want to do this project. Can I bring my class there from 9 to 10 every day next week? And then we have a hybrid model, which is some of our schools have, they have students all day Monday and Tuesday, and then they're open Wednesday through Friday, or I have students every day from 8 to 9, and then I'm open the rest of the day. So those are our 3 most successful models, but we also have 3 metrics that every school has chosen for how to say if their lab has been successful. So the 3 most commonly used metrics of success are the percentage of students in the school that are using the lab, percentage of teachers in the school that are using the lab, and just the number of projects that are happening in the lab. Those are all clearly quantitative metrics, and we're also pushing schools to think of what are some qualitative metrics for how you can measure success in the lab. So that is our first level of certification. That's called emerging certification. And then the next level is what I would consider the biggest jump from emerging to established. When I was in an eLab, I don't know that my lab ever got to this level, just because I didn't even know what it looked like. I wasn't sure what growth looked like. And that was the whole point of the certification process, was to kind of give schools something to work towards. So an established lab is a lab that supports and grows students in essential skills, content, habits, and technical fluency. So not only do they have to have done the emerging certification and satisfied those areas of focus, but they also need to focus on 4 more. So we're going to take you through some of the activities that we have used as support sessions for our schools that are pursuing established certification. So the first activity that we're going to have you guys do is a pop quiz. I want you to pause this presentation, and I want you to write down, without looking it up, what is your school's mission statement?
No cheating.
Once you think you've gotten your school's mission statement, I want you to check yourself. Go to your school's website or ask a friend, what was your school's mission statement? How close to the mission statement were you? Once you've done that, go ahead and unpause this presentation so we can keep going with our activities. All right, you should have your school's mission statement in front of you now. The next activity I want you to do is to look at your school's mission statement and think, what essential skills are in the mission statement, whether it's direct or implied. So essential skills are sometimes called process skills, sometimes called STEM skills, sometimes called soft skills. A lot of times people think about the 4 C's: critical thinking, creativity, communication, and collaboration, but it could look like grit, resilience, things like that. So our mission statement, which we put on another slide, is designing with stakeholders to bring innovative learning opportunities to all. I think one of the essential skills, I won't list all of the essential skills I see there, but designing with stakeholders means collaboration is an essential skill that is required to meet our mission. So what essential skills do you see in your school's mission statement? Go ahead and pause this and make a list of what the essential skills are. When you're ready to move on, go ahead and play us again.
Welcome back.
All right, so what this means is we don't want to just say in our lab, we're building collaboration. If you went in a kindergarten classroom and said, we're learning how to collaborate, and then you went into a 7th grade classroom and said, we're learning how to collaborate, that shouldn't look the same in kindergarten and 7th grade or kindergarten and 2nd grade. So one of the activities that we work our schools through is really thinking, what does that look like from year to year, from grade level to grade level? So what I'm going to share with you next is one of our school's narratives that they've written. So this is a collaborative high school narrative written by Dr. Tony Donan, who is the principal of one of our schools. And he wrote this kind of dream narrative of if everything looked like what he wanted it to look like, what does his school look like in terms of collaboration? Now, this is not necessarily what is actually happening. This is in the best circumstances, what does collaboration look like in his school? So I want you to listen for how collaboration is developed year to year and what does each grade level focus on. So I'm going to read this to you. As I walked into the school, the first item I saw was a visual display for houses, like Harry Potter houses. I asked about what these houses were, and the students explained that the very first thing a student does is take a Myers-Briggs test to learn their personality type. They're then sorted into one of 4 houses with students of a similar temperament. They then spend their 9th grade year learning about each other, the teachers, and how to best collaborate with each other based on their temperaments. The student went on to say, we all come from different places, so it's nice to learn about commonalities I have with others in my personality, and also the type of personalities I enjoy working with on projects. I thanked the student and continued down the hall and decided to step into a chemistry class. The students were all animated and talking in pairs. I approached one pair and asked what they were doing. They explained they were developing their own lab to test the physical and chemical properties of different compounds. I asked how they split up the work, and they told me how they had co-developed a plan with items each of them was completing. I asked what happened if one of the teammates slacked off, and both smiled at me. They explained that they were sophomores and their collaborative focus this school year was on accountability. They had agreed on a series of interventions, which they had written down on what would happen when one of them did not pull their weight. Soon thereafter, I left that classroom and headed to the Fab Lab. When I arrived, juniors were in the lab all over the place in little groups. I approached one group and asked what they were doing. The students talked to me about a project where they were creating an edutainment exhibit for the Tennessee Aquarium. They explained they had about 8 weeks on the project where they also met with sponsors from the aquarium. I asked what was the most important part, and they described how time management on the project was critical. They showed me a team contract they had made, and they were very detailed about their timelines. They expressed it was incredibly important to keep on track in order to meet the expectations of the project. At this point, I wondered what type of collaborative work I would see from seniors. It seemed like the juniors already had a great process in place, so I found some seniors in the student lounge. Every senior I spoke with described how they were working on a team project to innovate a solution for a problem that the team identified. But the big difference was every senior talked about how they had to find and reach out to experts in their problem area. They had sent emails, made phone calls, and even met in person or via Zoom with different experts. I couldn't believe it. These high school students were networking. As I left the student lounge, I began to wonder if this was what was taking place with collaboration. I wonder what was happening with other process skills like critical thinking and innovation. So hopefully, as you listened to that, you saw how at this particular school in 9th grade, they focused on one thing, in 10th grade, they focused on another. In 11th grade, it grew a little bit. And by 12th grade, they were really focusing on all 4 of those aspects of collaboration. So I want you to take some time, pick one of the essential skills that you chose was part of your mission statement. And I want you to think, if you're a middle school, what does that look like in 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade? If you're a high school, what does that look like in 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade? Maybe start with where you want your students to end. So if you're a high school, what should seniors be able to do? And break that down. What do seniors need to do? What do juniors need to do? What do sophomores need to do? And what do freshmen need to do? Just like Dr. Donan did. go ahead and pause us while you do that activity. And when we come back, we'll take you to the next activity. All right.
So we are back, and like Emily said, this is really the bread and butter of our certification process, this established criteria, which is our middle portion of the rubric. And she spent a lot of time talking about the process skill identification and process skill development. You know, how do students engage in that kind of learning in the lab? The other half of an established lab is for students to grow in their technical skill from grade to grade. And that's the product and project identification and development piece. And the goal there is that we don't, just like we don't expect ninth graders in Emily's story to show up to school and start networking with professionals in other careers, we don't expect kindergartners to walk into a lab and start 3D printing on day one. There are going to be some scaffolds in place to make sure that the students develop those technical skills so they can be successful and increase the complexity of their projects and skills from grade to grade. And a really good example of that comes from one of our local elementary schools. And, you know, we're really proud that we have students K-5 working in these labs. And so we wanted to share sort of the development of what that might look like in some of our elementary schools. I have broken that down to 4 areas. As a beginning fabricator at a local elementary school, students are really going to be probably focusing more on analog prototypes. They're going to be using markers, pencils, glue, crayons, things that they're already familiar with to start developing projects and show their ideas. As they continue to develop, they're going to gradually move from analog tools to things like 3D printing pens or box cutters that can simplify and allow students to make a more complex project. Also, there's a big focus on safety. We haven't mentioned safety today, but you cannot expect to bring hundreds of students into a digital fabrication lab with hot 3D printer nozzles and lasers without making sure that they have a really deep knowledge of how to safely use tools with blades and hot surfaces. But they're going to gradually move that direction. Eventually, we hope that students are going to become more independent in using the tools. They already have a know-how, and the hope is that students can then look at a task, look at a project, and start to weigh, well, I could solve it this way with tool X, or I could solve it maybe another way if I use the vinyl cutter and create something there. And they're moving from into much more complex tasks with less direction from their eLab instructor. And finally, as students become master fabricators, especially in our upper grades, the goal is that students are able to mix and match and combine different tools to meet the needs of each project. Every project's going to be a little different. And that those students are also not only capable of doing their own work, but really able to help and lead others to accomplish the learning goals in the classroom.
So as we work through those technical skills and the essential skills that we talked about a minute ago, we realized that there was a serious need for a way to track where students were in their development. And we believe strongly in the use of portfolios, but the unique skills that were used in an eLab or a digital fabrication lab didn't really have anything that already existed to help track that. So we actually started developing an app called Fabfolio, and this is a partnership between Hamilton County Schools and the Public Education Foundation. Fabfolio is an app for micro-credentialing students in both technical skills that are unique to Fab Labs and essential skills like critical thinking, creativity, the 4 C's. So you can track technical skills, you can track essential skills. It does create student portfolios, and it aligns to industry certification. So it prepares students for those early post-secondary opportunities, which we believe really strongly in Hamilton County schools. So we're really lucky. Fabfolio, because we helped develop it, is free for our county, and it has really transformed how teachers and students keep track of where they are in terms of their development.
Okay, so we are on to the last section of the eLab certification rubric, and that is the leading certification. And that a leading lab is a lab that's embedded in the culture of the school and the community, and it's integrated into student learning experiences across all subjects. So probably a theme that you've seen today or heard today as we've heard a lot of in the lab, when students are in the lab, when teachers are in the lab. The goal here is that, a leading lab really is moving the culture of a school. And so this is something that we're looking for outside of a lab, and outside of just our lab instructors. And as a result, we mentioned that we have 26 schools that have gone through the certification process. Right now, we have 2 schools that we feel are really demonstrating leading lab efforts at their building. So this is a lot of work to get to.
It's a heavy lift.
It's a heavy lift, but when you do make that lift, and when your administrators and your teachers are making this happen across the building, that's when you do start to see, okay, this is why we're doing this. This is how we are changing education. So there are 3 main areas of support there. And part of that is, communication with your staff and people in your community. Obviously, community partnerships are going to build from that. And finally, the evaluation that takes place in your own school building every day to day. So some of the way that we have begun that, and we've seen our schools do this, is to rethink how they tell their school story. We want to make sure that this is amazing work, and we want that to be shared outside the 4 walls of the school building. So these schools are really relying heavily on social media to get the word out, whether that's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We have 2 Twitter handles that I recommend you follow today, at Innovation HCS and at VWE eLabs. You'll be able to see what is going on in Hamilton County schools and these digital fabrication spaces. Schools also rely heavily on their newsletters. You cannot get your parents on board unless they see what's going on. This is really foreign to people. This is a new thing. And so making sure that's out there so parents can get excited, so they can come and see what their students are doing. And then finally, as you have parent and community nights, exhibit nights for student work, like this is the dream, baby. You have so many products and projects that have come out of the labs. Have them out. Let people engage with those. Let people ask students what their process was in creating that project, because again, we don't want these to be rooms of just cool stuff. We want and cool things that are created. We want to make sure that people understand why we create those cool things and what the value is. The second area of a leading lab and a leading culture is to use it as a space to build community partnerships. Leveraging partnerships with your local community can really help drive the authentic learning process for the students. Many of you are probably very familiar with project-based and problem-based learning, and having a partner with that is a huge asset. So some ways that our Hamilton County schools have done this is, of course, just sitting down and doing some asset mapping. Who's nearby? What businesses, what organizations, what individuals are near your school or in your community? Do you already have relationships? And as a staff, sitting down and making a plan on how to engage with those. 2, we mentioned your family engagement nights. Hey, you've got people coming into the building. You've got really cool projects and prototypes to show off. This is your opportunity to reel them in. We want to make sure that they stick around and continue to work on projects with others. And finally, we have launched a new program based on teacher and community feedback here in Hamilton County called Community Share, which is a place for our community and our teachers to come together to create more of these authentic learning opportunities. And our very last piece of leading certification comes down to evaluation. And we really think this is the hardest area of improvement because it is a very administration specific requirement. And we have found traditionally, over the past 7 years that administrators can struggle to give feedback in the lab. We want to go from, okay, that was really cool, to questions that really unpack the learning process. For example, who is doing the essential skill in that lesson? And obviously the goal is that students are the one having the lift. Students are the ones making the collaboration happen. Students are the ones doing the critical thinking. And that's not just in the lab. That's something that administrators should be looking for in math class, in language arts class, in science class. And that's when you start to see when a school has led professional development and worked towards adding that into their classrooms, that's when you start to see it outside of the lab. That continues to be an area of continual improvement for those schools. And it continues to be, I think, something to wrap up our process. We continue to rethink how we do this. Schools can every 6 months work to go towards another area on the certification rubric. Hey, we were emerging last time. We really want to go to established. We really think we can do this and that to punch up what's happening in the lab. And we want to do that on the certification process as well. I can promise you that the process that we have gone through this year will be very different next year as we continue to make improvements and ask and research and imagine ways to improve this work.
All right. So in summary, eLab certification really developed out of our district and our school's desire to grow the labs to be more effective and impactful. And like Andrew said, we're by no means done developing this process. However, we have already seen a lot of growth in our labs as we've put these 9 areas of focus into play this year. So if you would like to find out more specifically about our eLabs, that QR code on the left there will take you to an informational video developed by the Public Education Foundation. If you want to find out more about certification, you can see all of our documentation for that if you go to that QR code on the right. And if you want to set up a tour and see our labs in action, feel free to email me. My name is Emily Hurst, and my email is Hurst, HURST _E @hcde.org. Thank you so much for coming and listening. We hope this has been informative. And whether you're in a district that has a lot of digital fabrication labs, or you're a school that has one, or you're just thinking about getting one, using these 9 areas of focus can really help to ensure that your lab is moving in the right direction.
Yes, and leaving out one type of person, if you literally just learn what a digital fabrication lab is, that is okay too. You had to start somewhere. And as you can see, this has been a almost 10-year process to get from the first lab opening at the STEM school Chattanooga to having over 40 in Hamilton County. So don't be discouraged. It is a really amazing process to go through. And if you'd like to find out more and like to get inside a lab, again, give Emily an email, and we hope to see you in Chattanooga.